back during the summer when this was happening. But for that week, I could hear him praying, and I could hear him offering it up. God, just have your way. You know what I want, and I'm going to work for it, but have your way.
Welcome to Sports Spectrum, keeping Jesus in the sports conversation. Here's your host for today's show, former ESPN producer, Jason Romano.
It's always great to have our friend Luke McCown, the former NFL quarterback, here on Sports Spectrum. This time we get to do it in person, buddy.
Awesome.
It's awesome. Good to see you.
I mean, awesome for you and me. Everybody else probably doesn't want to see all this, but it's all right. It's all good.
We're in person. That's all that matters. And I'm glad we get to have a chat. I just thought this would be a good time of year as people are listening to this. It's the NFL season. It's college football season. It's high school football season, which you're heavily involved with your son Jonah, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But on the plane, as I'm, coming to this conference that you and I are both at, that we're able to have this conversation in person, I watched 6.5 of the 8 episodes of Netflix's Quarterback.
Yes.
And it's phenomenal. But I'm curious, just from your perspective as a quarterback, a former quarterback, certainly in the league, what you thought of the show. I know they just renewed for season 2, which is great, I heard today.
Yeah.
So there'll be another, season of that next year, and it's always fun to think about which quarterbacks it'll be. But we had Mariota, we had Mahomes, and we had Kirk Cousins. And just from your perspective watching it, what was your thoughts?
Well, tons of emotion welled up. Just because of all the experiences that you in season you dread as a player, but when you get out of the league and it's 5 years now or it's 6 years out, all those things that you forgot, all those different butterflies and all those different moments, they did a great job of kind of capturing them, drawing you in.
Yeah. And
so as a former player, it was like, I know exactly what Kirk is talking about. Mm-hmm. I know exactly the feeling, on the sideline. Now, maybe not as much as far as having a battle with coach for, hey, don't pull me out. I'm not ready to come out like Pat did, right? Because my journey was more of the backup. But I am here for my teammates. I am there's no way you're going to pull me off this field, especially in this moment. There's no way. And so all those different emotions that maybe the layperson in terms of football doesn't really get.
But the strive for perfection, knowing you can't.
No, you never meet
perfect.
It. That one of those first lines that Kirk said was, it's kind of this necessary evil of wanting to be perfect, but living in misery because you'll never be.
Yes.
And that's the life. That's exactly what it is. And so I thought it was excellent. My son and I were Jonah. He's been on the kind of the camp circuit, putting himself out there in front of coaches, and so we kind of binged watched all that on the road as we were driving from camp to camp, and so it's been fantastic, and just again, I think they really captured the essence of the emotion that players go through specifically and really from the quarterback position that might be a little bit different than maybe every other position as far as just the time and everything that goes into being good.
Watching it, though, here's what it did for me. And I've been around, obviously athletes for a long time when I was at ESPN and now with Sports Spectrum and PAO. And just I've been around some of the best and, talked to them, got to meet them. You and I are friends, knowing you. But I don't think I truly appreciated and understood the educational side of studying a playbook, tendencies, defense, watching film. And I thought this Netflix show, the Quarterback Show, really did a great job, particularly with Mahomes and with Kirk Cousins, on having to study your playbook. Obviously, that's kind of required if you're going to be a starting quarterback. But knowing it. I think somebody said, it might have been Kirk that said, it's like preparing to take a final exam every single week, and the test is Sunday, and you can't fail it.
That's it.
You have to get an A+.
That's exactly right. And the test is monitored by hundreds of millions of people
every week,
and all of them apparently have the answer key that you didn't get.
I've been that guy.
That's and again, that's what we sign up for. But that's where the drive for perfection comes from, and the desire to want to be good. And they did a great job. Kirk talked about the connection with the fans in particular, and Pat does a great job of realizing that we do this. We have a job, did have a job, because of the fan base and because of those that spend their hard-earned money during the week so that they have a moment on Sunday or Monday or Thursday to kind of get away from the grind. And that makes it special for us. And that makes, for players, that makes us want to go out. And, yes, we want to perform because we take pride in our job and we want to put a good product out there on the field. But we also understand that, man, like, you took your 80 hours or 70 hours or 60 hours this week and earned that $115 ticket, and you decided to spend it so you can come watch me play.
Right.
And that means a lot.
Yeah.
That means a lot. And so it makes you want to study that much harder and perform well on the test, if you will, that much harder on Sundays.
All right, let's have a little fun here. Go back to when you played with Drew Brees.
Yep.
What's the play call that you just like, oh boy, this is the play call? Because they showed that in the Netflix show.
Yeah.
They were just banging out plays. The play that I always remember is 65 toss power trap, which was like the Kansas City Chiefs in like 1969 on NFL films. And, Hank Stram is the coach, and he's like, 69 toss power trap, guys, 65 toss power trap.
Yeah.
But now it's not just 65 toss power trap.
No.
It's so many intricacies. Do you remember a play? It still to this day sticks in your mind.
Yeah, I mean, there's one. We used to – Drew and Joe Lombardi and Pete Carmichael, those guys kind of came up with this game on Thursdays where we would drill each other on our shot plays. So there was a segment in Coach Payton's call sheet where it was like these are the shots. So they're normally pretty wordy, but we have a specific goal in mind, and we're trying to go after people. So one that I use specifically in talks that I have with different organizations, or if I'm going to preach somewhere or whatever.
Yeah.
In terms of there's an enemy, and the enemy is, they are on the attack against us. So that's beside the point. So it's gun, fin right off tear, 22 paint nudge, double square out, takeoff, Y shallow cross, H burst. And
say that again, please, just one more time.
Gun, fin right off tear, 22 paint nudge, double square out, takeoff, Y shallow, H burst.
Wow. And that just floats right off of your brain right there.
and it was probably one that I struggled calling, so I took extra time to learn it. But what
was the call? What's that play?
Well, it's so gun, fin right off tear is the formation, so it tells the tight end, hey, you're off, and fin tells the Z, or in our offense the F and the X where to go, and the Z's over here. And tear just means the X is in a little tighter split. We're running square out takeoffs, and square out takeoff is just a 10-yard out, 6-step timing, 10-yard out route, but we're pumping it. So they're going to go on their out route, and then they're going to take it up the field. And then Y shallow cross, we're going to run him on a 4-yard shallow cross. H burst means he's on the opposite side of the formation, and he's going to check in his protection and then burst across the field. So you get kind of almost a mesh look between the H and the tight end, your Y.
So the play call is, in essence, the options as well.
Absolutely.
That you as a quarterback have on the play. It's not just question. The two guys going and square out the fake and boom, they're gone. But it's, okay, what is the tight end doing? What are the two wideouts doing?
That's right.
What is even a running back's job here? And the offensive linemen, when they hear that play, they have a pass protection in their mind too, right?
Pass protection, 22 paint nudge. So that tells them, hey, 4 down, and and whoever Drew identifies, or I would identify as the focal point of the protection, being the Mike. So you hear Brady, you hear all these guys go, hey, Mike 55, and that's just kind of helping everybody go, okay, that's the focal point of our protection. Now, if I feel a blitzer this way, I might say, hey, Mike, ram out to 22 or whatever. And those are all the fun things that we kind of geek over a little bit as quarterbacks, right? We just kind of enjoy that kind of weird part of it. But we tell everybody what to do, and we've got to make sure everybody's on the same page, running the same thing. And so 22 paints the protection. Nudge means, hey, tight end, on your way out for your shallow route, I want you to nudge this defensive end. Maybe, maybe it was a DeMarcus Ware or somebody that we've got to get a little help on so that he doesn't get a clean rush. And nudge also meant, hey, running back, you're going to nudge too. We're going to bump this left side defensive end as you go out on your route. And so we're trying to give a little bit of more protection, but still get all 5 of our guys out on a route. And Drew was big on that, and most offenses that are really on their P's and Q's try to get all 5 eligibles out while securing a little bit of extra protection for the quarterback. But we just wanted to tell everybody what to do, and it made it wordy on the quarterback. But I learned very young. I played with John Gruden, and my first 2 years with Coach Gruden, he really and I shared this with you once. I believe that my ability to play 13 years in the National Football League came from 4 years that I spent with John Gruden.
Yeah.
Because of the pressure he put on his young quarterbacks to be really good at offensive football, understanding the need for telling everybody what to do, having control at the line of scrimmage from the formation to the play call to the protection in the run game and the pass game. And so my time with Coach Gruden, the affinity that I have for him, and it wasn't always roses while I was there, and that's a different story. But
sure.
my time with him is what allowed me to play as long as I did, considering that I only had 10, I think, starts in my career, and yet I played 13 years, and that normally doesn't happen.
Yeah.
Normally a guy that plays 13 years had a plethora of starts, and for whatever reason, like my brother, it just didn't work out where he was consistent enough or whatever. So somehow I continued to get to play, and I think it was because of the time that I spent learning the importance of managing a lot in an offense as a quarterback, and so I could step into another system, be it Jacksonville or Atlanta or wherever else that I went, and pick right up where it left off, because it wasn't as hard. It wasn't as wordy. Maybe it didn't require as much study, if you will, for me to digest it all. And so the older I got, I appreciated that side of offensive football more, because I understood the importance of it, and it made me who I was as a player.
Interesting, too, because I think when we think about just being a quarterback, we automatically think of the Drew Breeses and the Bradys and the guys that you mentioned before, but it's important for every quarterback who's going to dress on Sunday to know that offense back and forth. That's the one thing I don't think we saw in the Netflix documentary, because it's obviously focused on Mahomes and focused on Kirk Cousins. But the backups, those guys that are in the locker room with Kirk Cousins, with Pat Mahomes, like I think it's Chad Henne was his backup last year. Like, they have to know that offense just as well as the starter, because it's one play away, right? Like what happened last year.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, Chad had to come in and lead him on a 96-yard drive for a score, right? And that was big. So the one tweak that I would make, Peyton's sitting there at the beginning. He helped produce the show, right? And Peyton's sitting there at the beginning. He says, playing quarterback's the hardest position in all of sports, and I would agree, except that I would say playing backup quarterback might be the hardest position in all of sports.
Interesting.
Because
people say it's the easiest position because you never play, and it's like, oh, I'm getting paid, I'm never going to play, I'm fine.
But when your number's called, you also never get the reps.
Right.
Yeah. You never get the reps in practice, the timing with the guys that you're going to be expected to have when you step into a game. Is the expectation is, hey, I'm going to step in and I'm going to play the same way that Pat was playing, or I'm going to play the same way that Kirk's been playing. Yeah. And that's difficult because you don't get the reps, and rightly so. There's so much that goes on into a game. Drew didn't need to take any time off so that I could feel comfortable about the game.
Right.
He needed to, but that's why the backup position is so valued, and maybe undervalued actually in the NFL, in that guys with experience or guys that can handle that type of stress, guys that can mentally wrap their head around the fact that the season might live or die based on this 96-yard drive, that you've got to come in and perform, and that doesn't mean you'll get to start the next week, and it doesn't mean you'll get to start the next drive, but in this moment we got to have you. And so it makes it, you take a lot of pride in that as backup when a team says, hey, we feel like you fit the mold for what we're looking for. Because they're saying, hey, we feel like even though you're not going to get the reps, we feel like you're a guy that's going to be studied up, ready to go, able to navigate a locker room, and be confident enough that even though you're not the man, you can step in and perform like you are the man.
Yeah, and win some games for the team. He is Luke McCown. He's joining us here on Sports Spectrum. I wanted to dive into a little bit from a faith perspective what this has been like for you with your son Jonah, who is a high school senior as we're releasing this interview. Been heavily recruited this summer. You talked about going through the camps and even getting his first D1 offer. And as we were talking before we started recording, you were kind of sharing with me a little bit about the faith component of how much has gone into all of this. And I just thought maybe as parents listening, maybe some coaches that are listening, and you're kind of a volunteer coach and certainly a coach to your son, not just a dad. What has this been like for you? He's your oldest, right?
He's my oldest. Yeah. And it's been eye-opening, a little bit nerve-wracking. To this point, you feel like you're making some decisions. Obviously, as a parent, you're making some decisions for your kid, but then year 18 rolls around and it's time for them to start making decisions, and those are the moments you sit back and go, man, am I wondering if I've communicated to him the importance of prayer, but have I demonstrated the importance of prayer and the tool that is the place that has in my life for when I make decisions. And so it brings, it's like, it hits you in the face, the reality of, man, what have I been showing him, and how much longer do I have to show him the right things? And so, this summer we've hit the camp trail hard, and he's put himself out there in front of a lot of coaches, and like you said, he's earned opportunity potentially to play again at the next level. Yeah. And there was a point where we sat down and I shared this with you earlier, that we sat down and there was some frustration. Maybe the offers weren't coming in or whatever, and he thought he performed well enough. And we sat down, and Katie and I sat down with him and just said, hey, sometimes it doesn't always go based on our performance. Performance isn't the thing that pulls the strings for us. God still pulls the strings. He's still the one that navigates or orchestrates what happens in our lives. Now, our job is to go out and perform, certainly as athletes, and we feel like all the time. But I can tell you definitively in my career, I feel like I performed well enough that I should get other opportunities, and it just didn't happen. Yeah. And so helping him realize the reality of, and it's really a lesson on grace, helping him realize that sometimes it's not about how good I am. It's simply about how good God is. It's not as a quarterback, man. I feel like I put myself out there and did everything that I could do right, and it still didn't go my way. And we want to control it all, and so just kind of helping him understand, hey, sometimes you just got to hold it with an open hand and go, God, I really like football. I love football, and I want to play. I don't want my senior year to be the last time I play football, but there's not really an opportunity, or at least nobody's presented me with an opportunity yet. And how do I reconcile that in my own heart? Like, how do I deal with that feeling? Yeah. And so I said, man, let's take a week and really pray, dive into prayer, press into God, and really ask Him, is this what you want for me? And so I get up early, and I can hear him a lot of times. He's an out loud prayer, and so I'll get up early, and I'm downstairs, and I've got my coffee and reading my Bible or whatever, and I can hear him upstairs when he wakes up, and I can hear him praying. And so for the last week, back during the summer when this was happening, for that week I could hear him praying, and I could hear him offering it up. God, just have your way. You know what I want, and I'm going to work for it, but have your way. And it was literally that next week we go to a camp, and he has a great camp and throws the ball well and performs well. And North Alabama, Coach Brent Dearman, who's a godly man, offers him a scholarship to come play football. And so it was kind of neat to see that, just him deal with those emotions and wrestle a little bit with that, and then God go, okay, all right, you genuinely open that up for me. Here it is. And so just those little lessons that you cherish as a parent, because it kind of lets you take a deep breath and go, okay, I think he's getting it. Yeah. I think he's getting it.
Yeah, I mean, they're still 18. They're still knuckleheads, just like most 18-year-olds are. But there's got to be something beautiful, I think, to, first of all, just hearing your kid pray out loud without you sitting next to them, right? Yeah. Because in my experience with working with young with teens, I'll say, most of that is not done on their own. It's usually somebody coaxing them or saying, hey, okay, now it's your turn to pray. Go ahead and pray.
Right.
But to have an orchestrated prayer life where he's doing it on his own, that has to be really refreshing as a dad. But also just knowing that, it's kind of like the confirmation from God, not that you ever need that.
Yep.
To say, okay, see what happens when you put your trust in him.
Correct.
It doesn't mean you're always going to get the D1 offer.
Correct.
But sometimes he's just waiting for you to say, okay, it's out of my hands and your will be done.
That's it. And there's a next step to this. And, once that offer came and now he's got decisions to make as far as, is this the right place? Is it?
Of course.
And we had a conversation about that on the way home from that camp, and that now the real pressing into God comes. Now it's the real work of prayer of God, okay, this opportunity is in front of me. Is it what you want for me? And I said, so if this is the only offer that comes, I said, maybe it's a pretty easy decision for you.
Of course.
But normally once one comes, 2 and 3, and maybe another one comes or whatever. But then it becomes, all right, God, where do you want me to not play football? Where do you want me to learn how to be a man on my own 2 feet that represents you to this world the way that you want me to represent you to this world? And those are critical choices, and that's where I thought about that even this morning. Like I was pretty heavily recruited coming out of high school. I could go play just about anywhere that I wanted to go play, and I don't remember one time my dad going, hey, you should go play here or you should go play there. And I'm sitting here going, man, I'm finding that really hard to say, hey, no, this is where you should go, but we leave those decisions because that's what sharpens our kids and makes them lean into the voice of God. And that's what that's what we all hope to be as parents, is just a sounding board that says, no, this faith is yours. It's not my faith. I've made decisions. This faith is yours, and you've got to discern the voice of God now.
And then that faith will have to grow on his own wherever he decides to go. Because mom and dad won't necessarily be there every day, and he'll have to learn and grow up to be a young adult, which is cool. Listen, my daughter doesn't play football, but I just sent her off last year as a freshman into college, and we only have one. But going to college and letting her bloom and fly was hard. But it's part of life, and it was scary, and we made out okay on the other end, and now she's in her second year at school at Indiana Wesleyan. So you figure it out, and you see how it goes. But I'm just curious, from the coaches that listen, we have a lot of middle school, high school coaches, rec coaches. You coach your son, but it's kind of a volunteer. You're not the head coach. You're not the guy. How has that been from his perspective to you and for your perspective to him, to see him as a football player that you're coaching and not just get caught up in remembering that you're dad and he's your son?
Yeah, it's a unique dynamic. It really is, and it gets tough. The one thing that I continue to go back to from my side of it is, man, how blessed am I that I get to spend this much time with him.
It's great.
I get to spend this much time with him, and even more so those moments where he comes to me and goes, Dad, I want to go work out. Let's go to the field and throw. And just so valuing that time, because I realize that it's limited. I realize that after this year, when he graduates, it'll never be the same. That amount of time won't ever happen again. And so I'm eating that all up and loving that, and loving getting to pour out what dad doesn't want his son or daughter to understand what dad did or follow in his footsteps, at least to some extent, right?
Of course, 100%.
Yeah. And so being able to pour into him the things that I know, and seeing that passion for the game and seeing that passion for the position that I've always had, it's just so rewarding. I'm not going to say fulfilling, because it's not about me,
right? But
it is rewarding to be able to share that with my son. And again, understanding that this time is very finite, and once it changes, it's different forever. And so eating it up from his perspective, I think it's probably difficult. I remember having the conversation with him back going into ninth grade, maybe going into eighth grade, when he said, Dad, I want to play quarterback. I took a deep breath. I was like, inside I'm like, yes.
Yeah, of course.
But on the outside I'm going, shoot. Okay. All right, bud. You have to understand that when you say that to me, I have to ask you, do you want my help? Because if you say no, I'm going to back away immediately. And I'm only going to be here when you say, Dad, what about this? But if you say yes, then I only know how to do this one way, and that's to try and be the best. And he said, Dad, I want your help. I said, okay. You have to understand that there's going to be things that I ask of you, whether in coaching sessions, and that the coach will be talking and not always the dad. And so that's and I've had to grow and learn and kind of get to know what coaching style is best for him, what coaching style he best responds to. But it's been neat for him, over the years, almost the challenge of, okay, this is what you mean by trying to be the best at what we do. Yeah. And so I think he gets that part of it, and not completely, because he's still growing. He's still a teenager, like you said. He's still a knucklehead, but he's got a passion and a desire in his heart to pursue a dream. And I'm very fortunate and very blessed that the game of football has afforded me the opportunity now as a 42-year-old to pour that back into my son and help him pursue a dream that I once had.
And then as you watch Jonah go through his senior season, we'll also be watching Jonah's uncle, your brother, Josh, coaching in the NFL with Carolina. He's got a young quarterback there with Bryce Young, and is Andy Dalton there too, right?
Andy's there too, yeah.
Andy's his other quarterback, so he's got a really good locker room. And a great coach, of course, with Frank Reich. Very godly coach, if I'm being honest. What's it been like to watch Josh's kind of progression post-NFL playing career as well, being your brother?
Yeah, not surprising at all. I mean, Josh has kind of known for a long time, different from my journey. Josh has known for a long time he wanted to step back into coaching. Coaching for me has been something that I remember in 2012 I was in Atlanta, and Dirk Cutter was our offensive coordinator. I had been with Dirk for a couple of years, Jacksonville and other places, and wasn't quite sure if I was going to have another opportunity to keep playing after that season. And Dirk was trying to get a head job. He ended up getting a head job in Tampa a couple of years later. Yeah. But he had asked me, hey, when you're done playing, I'd like you to consider wherever Matt can be a quarterback coach. And first I said, Dirk, I'm still young. I'm going to keep playing football for a while. Yeah. I didn't know how to decipher. Like, are you saying I'm not good enough anymore?
Right.
But I never thought that I wanted to coach. And just for the time requirement, understanding I've got 6 kids, and there's a lot that goes into that. Josh has always known that that's what he wanted to kind of get back into doing. And so to go through the process that he's gone through, where it was Philadelphia, and then the Jets before that in Philadelphia, and then Houston, and that whole deal came about, and and getting asked. That was the other thing. Nobody, like, he didn't go to these owners and say, hey, I want to interview. Like, they asked him, hey, would you interview for the head coaching spot? And he's just kind of got that presence about him. He always has, just this ability to connect and navigate a room. But it's been neat to kind of see all that come together in the right timing, in the right frame, because he's got 2 boys that are now both playing college football. And so the navigating being in Houston and COVID, and them moving from Carolina to Texas, and being able to his boys play Texas high school football to the point where they get scholarships and all that good stuff, to now he's like, okay, now is the right time to step back in and pursue an opportunity. And like you said, with a great staff in Carolina and a great room, a great young quarterback they feel like is going to be really, really good in Bryce, and a guy, super solid guy like Andy, to help, kind of support that whole thing. Man, it's been neat to see just kind of how God has unfolded that in the right way. And then for it to be Carolina, where they lived for like 8 years, just familiar again. So I'm really excited for him and to see where this goes and to watch kind of this part of his dream unfold.
Yeah, we'll be watching every Sunday, and we'll be seeing Josh on the sidelines with Carolina. Let me close with this. So you have 6 kids.
6. How
many does Josh have?
4.
He has 4, so that's 10. And how many McCown brothers are there, or family members are there?
So Randy's the oldest.
Okay.
Randy was a quarterback at Texas A&M from like 94 to 99.
Okay.
He's got 4.
Okay.
I've got a younger sister, and she's got 4.
4, 8. I'm going to do the quick math. 12, 18?
18.
Grandkids from mom and dad.
Mom and dad. That's right.
I mean, are there, family outings that you guys ever can get all 18 kids together? I mean, I'm guessing it's very hard.
It's wild, man. It is wild. But, Dad has already sat down and kind of gone over the college football schedule and high school football schedules and kind of marrying them all up. And we're here this Saturday and we're there that Friday and then here this Thursday. And, it's just what we do. And they've done it for a long time. I mean, when I was in high school, when Randy was at A&M and Josh was a senior and I was a sophomore, they would have Thursday night JV, Friday night varsity, Saturday, college football. And so it's just what we've done for so long. I don't think they know any different.
Wow.
But it's putting the miles on the cars and frequent flyer miles and going and watching ball games.
I love it. Now tell me, Josh's 2 sons playing. Where are they playing so we can be watching them?
Yeah, Owen is a quarterback at UTSA. He'll be I guess technically I think they allowed him to keep his red shirt. So he'll be a redshirt freshman. He was at Colorado last year. Started, I think, 3 games. Aiden is his younger son. He'll be a true freshman at Lamar.
Okay.
And then Randy's oldest son will be a true freshman at Taylor University in Indiana.
Sure.
So
that is the rival, by the way, of my daughter's college, Indiana Wesleyan.
Okay.
So Taylor and Indiana Wesleyan have a little bit of a rival there.
Fantastic.
Yes.
So yeah, we're spread out and it's kind of how life has always been for us. It's what we do, and
that is awesome.
It's a big part of our family. So
I love it. All the kids quarterbacks, by the way, all those kids?
All those are quarterbacks.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
of course they are.
What
else would they be? We're talking to a quarterback here in Luke McCown. Hey, buddy, thanks so much for joining us. This was a lot of fun, just talking some football and kind of hear what the Lord's been working on your life with your son, and appreciate you coming on always, and we'll do it again soon, I sure hope.
Appreciate it.
Thanks so much for watching today on Sports Spectrum. Make sure you click that subscribe button so you don't miss any other videos. And if you want more stories on sports and faith, check out our website, sportsspectrum.com.